Sin, Deputy Secretary here at Calvet, and really appreciate you getting the chance to be with us today. We are going to get started in just a minute or two. Gail Soffer is with us from the Mindful Veteran Project today, and she'll be leading our mindfulness session. Gail, if you're able to record the session, I think you'll have to press record rather than me, okay? Perfect. And so we have a few people still joining, so I'll just do a quick intro here. You're taking time for yourselves today. You are taking a little bit of time off from your work days for some self-care right now, and I congratulate you for that. That is a big deal. Making time to remember that you need to care for yourselves in addition to everything else you do during your day, whether you're caring for your family, for loved ones and friends, or working at a job full-time, part-time. Your lives are very busy, but especially during this pandemic, you've got to make sure that you're checking in with yourself regularly and that you're finding the time to kind of replenish your reserves. And this is a great way to do that. So as usual with all of our webinars, this session will be recorded. It will be available on our website, calvet.ca.gov/women veterans. You can also find all of our past recordings that we've done and figure out what we're doing coming up. We do have a webinar again with Gail and the Mindful Veteran Project, December 29th. That's a Tuesday at 1 p.m. We invite you to attend that with us as well. And that will also include your family members, especially kids. Bring any member of the family you want to that session. And we're going to do a mindful art project, and that should be a lot of fun for everyone. So a couple housekeeping items before we get started. As usual, remember to mute your microphones. You can turn your cameras on or off, that's up to you. And if you have any questions, ask us in the chat window and we'll be sure to get to your question. We won't be doing a Q&A at the end of this session just because we want to spend the entire time on the mindfulness exercises. But feel free to email us if you have questions. It's womenveterans@calvet.ca.gov. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Gail. So Gail Soffer, welcome back. We're glad to have you again here with the Mindful Veteran Project and really appreciate you being available to lead us through some mindfulness exercises today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and mute myself and let Gail take over. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. Again, my name is Gail Soffer. I'm the founder and executive director of the Mindful Veteran Project. And so I'm still admitting a few people before we go too far down the line. And I'm really happy to be doing this webinar. The year has been challenging. The holidays under normal circumstances have their own set of stresses and challenges. So to be able to present something where it's like, this will help us just keep our wits about us through the holidays, to me is a wonderful way. It's kind of my gift and Calvet Women's Program's gift to everyone who's around to attend. So what I'd like to start with is the way that our workshops always begin, and then I'll give a little bit of framing to what we're going to be doing. And it's actually the first of our mindfulness practices, which is a 2-word check-in. So a lot of times when we encounter another person, we'll say, hey, how are you? What's happening? How you doing? But we're not really asking and people aren't really telling. But to start a mindfulness workshop, we're really asking. And we're asking ourselves, what's happening for me right here and right now? So let's just take a minute to check in with ourselves and ask, what's happening for me right here and now, physically, mentally, emotionally, even a little bit environmentally. We can ask about that. What am I feeling? And one of the challenges and what makes it mindfulness also is that we're finding we might have conflicting, what we would consider conflicting feelings or emotions going on, and that human beings can handle that. We might feel hungry and tired. We might feel excited and bored at the same time. We might feel depressed and anxious. We might feel all kinds of things are going on. And so just to take a minute to check in, what's happening for me right here and now, and find two words, two of the feelings that kind of come most to our attention. And you can write them down. You can type them in the chat if you want. We're just kind of making a record of our starting point and beginning with honoring ourselves with our own attention. So let's just take a minute, take our own temperature, find the two most predominant things that we're noticing going on, and somehow record them. And that can even be just in our heads. We remember that. And that's our starting point. So a little bit about mindfulness, mostly just so that you can all heave a sigh of relief. Mindfulness is not the same thing as meditation. So we're not trying to work ourselves into a good place. There's no specific posture we're sitting in. We're not trying to relax, release anything, calm down. We're paying attention. So the definition of mindfulness that Mindful Veteran Project works with is paying attention to present moment experiences. And again, those are physical, mental, emotional, interpersonal, environmental. Paying attention to those present moment experiences, suspending as much judgment as possible so that we can explore with openness and curiosity. And here's the big one, without trying to fix or change anything. And simply accepting the existence of whatever we find. So just like with that two-word check-in, whatever we found, that's what we recorded. And we weren't trying to impress anyone because everyone's on mute, so no one's listening, with how great we're doing or how poorly we're doing. It's just like, well, for better or worse, just like in those wedding vows, this is what's happening. Here I am right here and now. And that makes mindfulness incredibly powerful, incredibly supportive of just who we are and whatever's going on, and lets us move forward and find more possibilities. So instead of ever feeling trapped, stuck at the end of our ropes, we're able to explore. And what else do I see? What else do I notice? What else do I feel, hear, sense? And find we have a lot more possibilities maybe than we thought initially. And we can move forward instead of looking at what we don't have. We find we have so much more than maybe we thought at the beginning. So this way of practicing mindfulness is different from a lot of what's out there and called mindfulness. Might sound arrogant to me. This is pure mindfulness. It's just the paying attention. And we can go on a mindful exploration together today and learn some things that really will help us through the holidays. Again, challenging times. We put a lot of expectations on ourselves of how jolly we're supposed to be, how much we're supposed to inspire other people with things that are seasonal, put a lot of demands on ourselves. And this is how we can just keep our wits about us and proceed. And while we're giving, also be giving to ourselves and enjoying. So the first thing I'd like to do is just do this now with you and encourage you to try this through the holidays with whatever helps you remember to do it. For instance, just like that two-word check-in, anytime, and you can even choose your own trigger. Anytime you hear someone singing or playing Jingle Bells, or anytime someone says Merry Christmas, or Happy Hanukkah, or whatever trigger you want to choose, anytime you hear that or experience that or smell peppermint, whatever it is, use that as a trigger to do a two-word check-in with yourself, to come back to square one. Here I am, and what am I experiencing right here and now? so that I don't feel pulled out and out and out by all the demands that everyone else is making on me and all the expectations I have of myself that are creating demands. And just to come back to, here I am, alive and breathing. What am I experiencing? Come back to myself and proceed from there. First, really, besides the 2-word check-in, an encouragement to create your own trigger that has you do that check-in with yourself again whenever it feels appropriate to do. So in a way, a third practice that I'd like us to do, and this one, I'd like to encourage people to start with eyes closed, because we're going to use senses other than our sense of sight at first, and then we're going to go to that. So if you're in an environment where you do feel comfortable closing your eyes, please go ahead and do that. And we're going to just start by feeling ourselves in our own bodies. Feel maybe what we're sitting on, wiggle in our chairs. Feel, is the surface hard or soft? Is it completely flat? Does our chair have contours to it? Are we sitting on the edge of the seat? Are we relaxing back into the seat? Are we sitting right in the middle? Is the chair really tiny and our body extends over the sides? What do we notice about just where we are planted in our world right now? And then kind of sense in our body, are we sitting bolt upright? Are we slouching over? Are we leaning back in our chairs? What's our posture like? And please don't try and correct it to whatever you think is correct. We're just noticing and observing and seeing what's going on. We're not fixing or changing anything. We're just noticing. And noticing the temperature. It's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Do I feel hot? Do I feel cold? Do I feel just right? Is the temperature such that I wouldn't even notice temperature? The temperature within my body and in the room is so well matched, or my clothing keeps me in such a moderated zone that I don't even notice temperature? Do I feel any breezes blowing on me? Maybe someone's sitting outside in front of a fan. So we're kind of finding where our body is located in time and space, and that we're sitting right in the middle of it. Noticing even if our eyes are closed, does it feel bright to us, dark? Even through closed eyelids, we can sense light. Then noticing what sounds we hear in the room, just right around us. Maybe things we hadn't noticed before. You'll have to listen over my talking as I guide you through this. Do we notice maybe the hum of a computer? Do we hear maybe a clock ticking that didn't sound so loud before? Is there some background music? Can we hear air conditioning or heating kicking in? Maybe even the vents rattling as the heated or cooled air comes into the room. Can we listen a little further out and maybe hear someone outside of our room, someone talking, walking down the hallway, neighbors walking on their floor, our ceiling, over our heads. Maybe outside we hear a helicopter going by, a siren, blowers from gardeners. I toss out all kinds of suggestions. Whatever you hear is for your environment. And there's no right or wrong here. We're just noticing and bringing our attention a little bit closer to ourselves again. and opening our eyes and looking around the room. I'll start this being very holiday appropriate, noticing if there are any red colors or shapes in the room, any green colors or shapes, blue colors or shapes, white. Just going through the spectrum, noticing light colors, pastels, any very dark, vibrant colors, any shapes, objects that are black, maybe framing other objects. Just really exploring our environment. We can both sense and look to see how high above us the ceiling is, depending on the height of our chair, how low beneath us the floor is, how far to our sides and in front of us the walls are, and if all these spaces are big and open, or if there are a lot of objects in them, if we feel hemmed in, if we feel that there's almost too much space and we feel a little bit vulnerable or isolated. So noticing not just what's there, but how we feel. Using our sense of smell. And we can turn in different directions if that helps us, if there's scents coming from different directions. I happen to have my favorite paperwhite narcissus on my desk. Noticing if we smell flowers in our area, any holiday smells, if there's evergreen or candy canes, a scented candle burning, maybe someone has aromatherapy going, cooking smells. If we can smell our pet in the room, any other smells that we notice. And again, without labeling them as good smells or bad smells, just noticing, just taking in everything about here I am, located in time and space, in my environment, and then bringing our attention all the way into ourselves. If you're comfortable, perhaps closing your eyes and bringing the attention in and feeling ourselves breathing. Just feeling a breath flow in and a breath flow out. And again, we're not trying to change our breathing. We're not doing anything fancy. This is not about deep belly breathing or breathing in our noses and out our mouths. This is not breathing in to a certain count, holding to a count, and exhaling to a count. We're just noticing how we've been breathing all this time, noticing our own rhythm and pace, noticing maybe if the air feels different temperature-wise coming in and flowing out. And noticing we have this wonderful place inside of ourselves. We can always bring our attention, give ourselves a time out, and enjoy just receiving the gift of life one breath at a time and being right here and right now. So you can enjoy a few more very mindful breaths with eyes closed or open. And then bring your attention back into the Zoom room in this case for us to start another practice. When we do this in person or there's more time and it's more interactive, we debrief each practice just to see how that was for people, what they happen to notice. So I guess everyone will just do a personal debrief see how they felt about that. Maybe compare how you felt before when we just started to how you feel now. And maybe try this on your own or with family members. Kids are really good at learning this as well, and it's a lovely thing to do with family members. So I'd like to do another mindfulness practice, and this is about exploring what's happening in our bodies. Because a lot of times, especially when we're trying to accomplish something, we will override what's happening with us. And it's only when we find ourselves in an ambulance, on the floor, in an ICU, with our bodies screaming at us, that we give them attention. This allows us, paying attention to our bodies, being mindful about what's happening, is a great way of being proactive, great way of staying on top of things and not being a victim of something catching us off guard. And as far as keeping our wits about us, when we feel in control, this is me, and this is something I'm noticing. This is a thought going through my head. This is an emotion coming up. This is a physical sensation. This is another person being a jerk. This is my environment really attacking me, high winds and rain. We don't have to be victims. We can act appropriately and definitely stay current, keep our wits about us, and make some really wise choices rather than be caught off guard and scramble. So with this practice, and this is very modular. When we have a lot of time, we'll do this through our whole body. You can do any part of your body, the right side of your body, the left, just legs, just arms. What I'd like to do with this one is explore sort of from the shoulders up. This is as if we were in a museum looking at a sculpture, a bust of someone, some ancient person or some famous person. We're going to sort of look at ourselves in that way and explore kind of from our shoulders upward. And again, this can be done with eyes closed, with eyes open. With eyes shut, we tend to be able to tune in more to certain sensations and dig a little deeper, but this is completely up to you. There's nothing sacred or special about closing eyes when you're doing mindfulness. It's just a choice of how to use your attention. So we're going to start with bringing our attention just to our shoulders and noticing if we're kind of hunched forward, if this is a military connected population, if we're standing at our attention with shoulders back, if our shoulders feel even, do we notice one shoulder is higher, closer to our ear than the other one? Noticing the temperature in this part of our body. Noticing the sensation of skin against fabric, feeling our clothing on our shoulders. Noticing if we feel any weight on our shoulders. Maybe we're wearing layers of clothing. Someone might be out and about and carrying a backpack, and you can feel the straps of your backpack. Just what's going on in this part of my body. And to explore a little bit deeper, we're going to do some movement. And again, this is not to change or fix anything. This is so that we can dig deeper into noticing what's going on. So we're going to lift our shoulders up to our ears as far as they can go. Lower them down as far as they can go to feel what's going on in there. Which muscles are moving as we do these different movements? Do the muscles feel tight or strained? We'll bring our shoulders forward as if we're trying to touch them in front of our bodies to each other. And feeling what muscles are working. Pulling our shoulders back to feel as if we're trying to touch them behind our bodies. lifting one shoulder then the other. And all this time we're checking, is there tension? Which muscles feel tight? Is there any pain when I do these movements? And definitely just go really easy if you notice any strain or pain. This is not feel the burn, no pain, no gain. This is how we're exploring what's going on in this part of our body. And moving our shoulders in circles backwards, rotating them forward. Feeling, gathering every bit of information about what's going on in this part of my body. Am I trying to carry the world on my shoulders? All the burdens on my shoulders? What's happening here? And moving our attention from our shoulders in towards our necks, exploring in a similar way, noticing the temperature difference between the front and back and sides of our neck, noticing what's making contact with our necks, the collar of our clothing, the chain or string of a necklace or dog tags, our hair, a cap with the brim backwards, whatever's making contact with our necks. Again, we're going to check for if we're this is the end of 2020 and this is being broadcast from California, and I'm in Southern California. If people don't have tension in their necks, I'll be really surprised. We're all part of the human race. This is what's happening. Please, no one beat yourself up if you find that this is where you're carrying tension. Again, we're just checking to see what's happening. Moving our heads very slowly and very gently in different directions. Tipping our heads forward just as far as it's comfortable. Feeling which neck muscles are tight. Are muscles pulling? Are they pulling down our back? How far down our back can we feel that? Very slowly and gently tilting our heads backwards. Seeing what we notice there, which muscles pull, where we feel tension, where the muscles feel relaxed. Tilting our heads from side to side. What's going on in my body when I do these kinds of motions? How are the muscles on the side of my neck? Very slowly and very gently, rotating our head in different directions. Please do this very slowly and very gently. We're not being junior chiropractors and trying to do our own adjustments of our necks. We don't want to pinch any nerves, cause any sprains or strains. We're exploring. As I move this big, heavy head in different directions, what do I notice is happening that I might not have noticed in my neck? Might even hear some snap, crackle, pops going on in there. Again, very slowly, very gently. Are we finding more tension than we thought we had? Moving our heads, looking over our right shoulder, over our left shoulder. Really exploring what's happening in this part of my body. Am I aware of what's going on in there? Separate from the mindfulness, which is just the exploration, am I finding some things that I might want to address with a hot pack, with a cold pack, with a visit to the chiropractor or the acupuncturist, my physical therapist, or maybe just a lot of stretching on my own, just noticing and observing so that I'm on top of the situation, exploring, noticing, and definitely not beating ourselves up if we find tension. This is our gathering intel phase. It's not a reason for beating ourselves up with whatever we find. And then even using our hands, exploring our heads themselves, feeling the shape of our head, noticing it's not a perfectly round beach ball, that there are different surfaces, and planes in this thing that's been sitting on top of my neck all these years, and maybe I haven't noticed a lot about it. Feeling the actual shape, and as we're touching, maybe feeling where there's tension, putting a little bit of pressure, feeling the different surfaces where there's hair growing, including our faces in this exploration, where hair does not grow, where through the skin I can feel my skull, something we're very aware of at Halloween, but that's always there right under the surface. Noticing cheekbones, where the jaw connects. We can use our hands like little walking fingers to move and explore. Feeling where there's a lot of padding on our face, feeling where we can feel our teeth and gums and bones right near the surface. Noticing the little space between our hairline and our ears, where our ears are located. Tracing that little space also where hair doesn't grow behind our ears. Even using a little pressure. Maybe noticing that we're carrying tension there as well. Feeling the shape of our ears. Tugging on them a little bit. Just exploring this part of our body. As with most parts of our body that we don't pay a lot of attention to unless there's pain or something clamoring for our attention. Noticing where our eyes are located in our head. When we do some mindful arts and crafts with kids, we notice how far apart our eyes are before we draw them, that our eyes aren't located near our ears. So just feeling our way through, noticing eye sockets, noticing eyebrows, where our nose is located, what part feels very supported by bone, where the cartilage starts, the shape of our nose, that very interesting little space between nose and mouth, the little valley right in the center. Just exploring and noticing. Up into our temples, up in the top of our head, and tapping on our head. Noticing that sound and sensation. Noticing how we can actually move our scalp around. How it's anchored, but has flexibility. Doing some general exploration around the sides to the back of our heads, feeling where our heads join our spine. Feeling the base of the spine, or actually the starting part of the spine, feeling the base of our skull, putting a little pressure in there to feel the shape, maybe noticing we can feel muscle tension. And then resting our hands back down wherever it was most comfortable. And then checking in again and just noticing how we feel after exploring this top part of our bodies. If they feel different from when we started. And if we notice any difference, being really aware of the fact that no one was ever told to relax, release tension, let go of anything. A lot of times just paying attention has some really lovely effect on our state of mind and our state of being. So I'll let everyone do a little bit of either their own debrief, or if people would like to, type something in the chat, any feedback, before we move on to another practice. And this practice is a very interesting one. We've always done it in person, with people pairing up, working with one other person. But I think I can explain it well enough that people can do it. If there's someone else in the room with you, you could do this with them, but this is more just to understand the practice and be able to use it with someone else, especially during the holidays where people are running around even more crazy than we are usually. And that need to connect is really there, especially at this time with the pandemic and isolation. We're going past each other a lot like ships in the night. There's a lot of virtual connection that isn't quite as satisfying. And when we're not feeling that we're seen and heard and appreciated, it can be very wearing. So this practice is called I See You. And it can be, you can think of it in terms of I see you, or the initials are also ICU, which is intensive care unit. And this is something like that. And I'd like to share a story that describes this practice, how it can play out, and how important this can be for connecting with people, even who have been in the same household for a long time, are spending more time with each other than usual, but aren't feeling that really deep connection. So this is about spending, it can even be, usually we do this for 3 minutes, and you're taking the time to just sit down across from another person and asking just for 3 minutes of their undivided attention, sitting facing each other and knees not touching, but close, and just facing this other person with nothing else going on, as much privacy as you can arrange. And people take turns. So it's not one of those who blinks first contests. It's not staring someone down. And for a lot of people, it can be challenging because we're not used to making eye contact with people in person. It can be actually seen as a threat. The classic scene in a movie in a bar, who you looking at? So this isn't meant to be intimidating or challenging. This is just observing another person and being observed by another person. So as you're sitting, or it could be done standing, just taking the time and the focus to look at another person, and again, with mindfulness in mind, without judging, without trying to fix or change anything, just noticing and seeing what you notice as you pay attention and pay attention and pay attention. And when you feel that you've seen them in whatever way you would feel that, maybe you notice something different about their clothing, or they changed their hair color and you hadn't noticed, or wow, I didn't know you had freckles, or whatever you noticed. And it can be a feeling, wow, I noticed this person just has a lot of care and love coming out of them, or they're very anxious and nervous. Whenever you could say, I see this person, you just tell them, just those 3 words, I see you. And then the roles switch. And the person who was observed becomes the observer. And they observe the person who was observing them. And again, whatever it is you notice, whatever it is you see about that other person, again, it can be a feeling, it can be a quality of theirs, it can be their clothing, their posture, whatever you notice. And you give it enough time that you feel, I've seen something. You tell this person, I see you. And you're not telling them what you see or that you hadn't noticed it before. Only 3 words get exchanged. And you take turns going back and forth between you for even 3 minutes. And it's a very interesting practice because people see things that they thought they would have noticed. We did this with professionals at an agency one time, people who work 8 hours a day with each other, 5 days a week. And people said, I don't remember you wearing glasses. Or, did you change your hair color? Or, wow, you have a beautiful smile. So things that might go unnoticed and unappreciated get noticed. And to just take that time to go back and forth and see another human being, fellow human being, and let them know that you see them is quite an incredible practice. And the way this played out with another group that we were working with was these were caregivers who were taking care of children who are not their biological children to keep them out of foster care, to keep them within the family, but these were not their biological children. And one woman did this in one of our groups, came back and said, Gail, I have to tell you, I did this with Jose, and this is a very hyperactive child. And she said, he just bounces off the walls and out of control. And I wanted to try this with him. So she said, he was running around and I asked him to come over. And I held him by the shoulders, looked him in the eye and said, Jose, I see you. And he was still kind of, moving around and all over the place. And she said it again. She just observed him just for a little bit and said, Jose, I see you. She said it in Spanish. Jose, te veo. And he kind of settled down a little bit and looked up at her, was still moving around a little. And she said it again, Jose, I see you. And he really settled down and looked up at her that much more. And she said it one more time, Jose, I see you. And he said, I see you and I love you too. So without telling him settle down, without giving him medication, without tying him to a chair, this simple practice created a really beautiful connection. And his response of, I love you too. She never said the words, I love you, but he received the love and told her, I love you too. So I would love for you to walk away with this practice and try it. This between partners can be amazing. Again, a lot of times people are in a loving relationship, but ships passing in the night. To ask someone for 3 minutes of their time and sit down and try this I see you practice at whatever pace works. It's quite something. So I'd love for this to be one of the takeaways, even though we can't really practice it because of the constraints of technology, for you to try this with someone, and especially over the holidays. So I just want to check. Wonderful. I just wanted to check the chat if there were any questions, any comments. So there was one comment about experiencing some pain during a practice, especially if we're moving around to observe what's happening. This is never meant to cause pain. And because we're moving very slowly and very gently, we're able to be self-moderating. But it may be that we discover a pain that was there, and then we can make a wise choice about what to do about it, rather than, again, be a victim of it, have it catch us off guard, and be an emergency before we can do something about it. So to be able to notice what's really happening and keep digging into that and digging into that and observing and noticing with openness and curiosity, we can make some wonderfully wise choices and head off some real problems down the road. So I think we're able to squeeze in another practice before the time is up. What I'd like to do with this one, unless there are any special requests or questions, so far the chat looks okay. Is do a very kind of internal exploration and paying attention. That's using our senses in a very different way. So this is actually exploring our mouths, using our own sense of feeling, using our tongue to explore our mouths. And again, this is an area of our body that we usually, I mean, you know, maybe we're flossing, we're brushing our teeth, or everyone's real thrilled going to the dentist. Again, we usually don't pay much attention what's going on in this part of our body. And so with all of these practices, we're honing our skills of paying attention, paying attention, paying attention, discovering what's really happening, present moment experiences, so that we have these skills available to us more and more often, so we can be proactive, or we can make a wise choice rather than being reactive, you know, defaulting to a knee-jerk reaction and then going, oh my God, what did I just say again? What did I just do again? I wish I could put those words back in my mouth. I wish I could repair the relationship that I just damaged. Again, keeping our wits about us, we're honing our skills of present moment attention that then play out in so many different ways. So as diverse and as maybe strange as these explorations are, they're ways of practicing mindfulness, present moment awareness that we can use in our daily lives. And what's wonderful about all of these, no props involved, no going to a specific location, no buying fancy equipment, nothing to pay. These are all yours, and this is your attention. So with this practice, and again, if it helps with distractions, you're welcome to close your eyes. You can keep your eyes open if you feel safer in the environment you're in. But we're going to start paying attention just to what's happening inside our mouths. So we're going to feel where our, and I can't do this along with you because then I can't talk. We're going to feel where our tongue is located in our mouth, and all the different directions we can move our tongue in, way off to the right side, way off to the left side, seeing how far we can stick our tongues out of our mouths, how far we can roll our tongues back inside our mouths, rolling up to touch the roof of our mouth, rolling down as if we're folding our tongue under itself. Noticing if this is creating more saliva in our mouths, if our mouth feels very dry, if there's just the right amount of saliva. Noticing the temperature, taking our tongue and exploring the inside of our teeth on the top, going tooth by tooth, starting your choice, right side or left side, feeling the inside of our teeth, the different shapes and sizes, coming around to the front, feeling the big flat surface of our front teeth, moving slowly around to the other side, noticing if there's any pain in any of our teeth, any jagged surfaces, anything we discover in there. As then we bring our tongues around to the outside, to the front of our teeth, and again, starting at the back, feeling around the surfaces. This is what we tend to do naturally after having our teeth cleaned at the dentist. They feel so squeaky clean and shiny. So now we're doing it whether we've been to the dentist or not recently. Feeling the different surfaces, the different shapes and sizes of our teeth, the ones that are more flat, the ones that are pointy. Coming all the way around to the back, to the molars. Doing the same thing on the bottom teeth, starting either side with the molars. Feeling each of the teeth one by one. Noticing if we just ate popcorn and there's some little pieces in there, whatever we find. The different shapes and sizes and surfaces. It's a lot harder to do, seeing if we can feel the outside surface of our lower teeth with our tongues. Noticing the coordination that it takes. Maybe we're not able to do that. All the way around to the other side. And then feeling the chewing surfaces of our teeth. First on the lower teeth. All the way around from one side to the other. On the upper teeth. From one side to the other. Taking our tongue and feeling the roof of our mouth. Where it's the hard palate, where it's the soft palate, and it gets a little tickly. Feeling the sides of the roof of our mouth, the gums. Feeling along our lower teeth, the gums, feeling that surface. And then exploring the inside of our cheeks with our tongues. Usually a smooth, shiny surface. And then depending which language you speak, you might be really good at this or not so good at this. Using our tongues to do a rolled R and just feel the sensation of our tongue in our mouth and the sound that we can make. And then just resting our tongue in its default position. And then again, just checking in how we feel after doing this very unusual exploration. And maybe noticing the coordination of our tongues, how much they can do. And we notice this a lot when we do mindful eating. The amazing coordination of our tongue and our bodies, that we chew without biting our tongues or the inside of our cheek, except when we've been to the dentist and our mouth is still numb. So just enjoying a little bit the coordination of our bodies, resources maybe we weren't aware of having, and what we discover when we give something some really extended, full, deep attention. So what I'd like to invite people to do now is a 2-word checkout. So again, just give ourselves full attention, kind of poke around in there, see how we're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. See what 2 words kind of come to the surface most to our attention this time. Record them either in the chat, on a piece of paper, mentally, and compare them to the beginning where we started. And just see what this journey was like. If you found some tools that you think could be useful, if you'd like to give them a try, and especially remembering that little trick of through the holidays, finding whatever triggers you feel would be most useful to you. And whenever you hear a song, you hear jingle bells, you smell some holiday food cooking, whenever someone says Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah, whatever trigger you would like to choose, do your 2-word check-in. Just come back to yourself. Know that you have a lot more resources than maybe you thought you did. You can and you deserve to enjoy not just the holidays, but every minute of your life. And there's a lot there to support you just within yourself. Wonderful. I'm not going to say the name, but someone shared the check-in was anxious and exhausted, and checkout was calm and centered. Wonderful. There we go. That's the possibility. So I'm going to turn this back over to Lindsay to do a wrap up. And thank you so much for giving this a shot.
All right, Gail, thank you so much for today. Yes, similarly, my 2-word check-in and my checkout. I'm definitely calmer after having participated in the exercises. And that's what I appreciate so much about this, about the mindfulness that you bring to us, these practices and the takeaways that we can use in our own lives. Always good reminders here. So folks, we appreciate you joining us today. This will be recorded. If you came in late and didn't get to see the session, visit our website, calvet.ca.gov/womenvets, and you can find these webinars and this recording very shortly. Also, join us again, Women Veterans, for another session that you can do with your family members. That's on December 29th at 1 o'clock. And then visit Gail's website as well to check out the mindfulness sessions she'll be doing on the 19th and the 20th, Saturday and Sunday, for Mindful Veteran Project as well. So thanks again for joining us, everybody. We're going to let you go in the interest of your time. So glad you could be here today and come back and spend more time with us. Happy holidays. Keep taking care of yourselves so you can take care of each other. Okay? Bye, everybody.